Chapter 1. The Extravagant King. The palace of Draconis was a monument to pride. Its towers speared the heavens, their tips gilded in gold so bright they caught the sun at dawn and dusk, painting the horizon in fire. Courtyards bloomed with jeweled fountains. Banquet halls resounded with laughter, music, and the clinking of goblets. Every stone in its walls whispered of wealth, power, and conquest. Here reigned King Valerius Ardentis Sunwing, heir of the dragon god. Valerius was a man who lived for grandeur. He bathed in silks, dined upon dishes spiced from across the seas, and wore crowns heavy with gemstones carved from the heart of mountains. To his people, he was more than king. He was the living flame of Draconis, the chosen of the divine. To his rivals, he was the proudest of rulers, a man too consumed by his own greatness to bend to any will but his own. Yet Valerius was not satisfied with wealth, nor even with the loyalty of his subjects. To bind the world to him, he sought to marry not one, but 9 wives from 9 kingdoms, each kingdom tied to one of the sacred beast gods of old. From the kingdom of crocodiles, he took a queen as fierce as the rivers of her homeland. From the kingdom of foxes, he gained a bride whose tongue was silver, whose smile concealed schemes. From the kingdom of basilisks, a veiled beauty draped in silks like coiling scales, her gaze sharp as venom. From his own bloodline, the Dragon Kingdom, a princess fierce as burning skies. From the seas came the mermaid princess, her voice like the tide, binding hearts in chains of song. From the high meadows of the Hippogriff Kingdom, he claimed a queen whose spirit was half storm, half stallion, wild and untamed. The Griffin Kingdom gifted him a bride whose wings gleamed gold, gaze fierce as the noonday sun. From the eternal fire of the Phoenix Kingdom, he claimed a woman radiant with rebirth, flames dancing in her very presence. And lastly, the kingdom of dragonflies, home of fairies and pixies, sent him a bride with laughter light as the summer breeze. 9 brides, 9 thrones, 9 kingdoms tethered by silken ceremony to the proudest king of all. Valerius Ardentis Sunwing, the Dragon King, walked into his destiny laughing, his heart ablaze with triumph, never knowing that the road ahead would lead not to glory, but to ruin, death, and a chance at redemption. Chapter 2. Lilybelle of the Dragonflies. Far from the thunderous halls of Draconis, there lay a kingdom of delicate wonder. The kingdom of dragonflies was not a land of towering fortresses or endless armies. Its beauty was found in the shimmer of wings at dawn, in gardens blooming with flowers that never wilted, in rivers that glowed like liquid moonlight. Here lived fairies and pixies, dragonflies and mortals, together in harmony. Their songs drifted through the meadows like lullabies, and their laughter was light as falling rain. And at the heart of this gentle realm dwelt Princess Lilybelle Isauria Senta. From her earliest days, Lilybelle was unlike the daughters of other kingdoms. Where pride swelled in the veins of most rulers' heirs, she was touched by humility. Where others sought glory, she sought goodness. She was kindness incarnate, as gentle as a summer breeze, radiant as morning light. She was beloved not because she demanded it, but because she gave herself freely. Lilybelle spent her days walking among her people, often in simple gowns instead of royal finery. Sometimes she was seen helping the fairies gather dew for their magic, or playing with pixie children beside the lily ponds, or weaving wildflowers into garlands for villagers' weddings. What gifts her father gave her, pearls, jewels, silken gowns, she quietly passed on to the poor, believing wealth was meant to heal, not to decorate. The people adored her for it. To them, she was not only their princess, but their heart. The lily of the dragonflies, they called her. The queen of kindness. Her parents, too, were deeply devoted to her. King Breck Onyx Senta, a man of firm hand and soft heart, was perhaps the most doting father in all the realms. His palace glittered with treasures, yet he often confessed that his greatest jewel was his daughter. Queen Eliana Lucina Senta, wise and graceful, shared in Lilybelle's benevolence. It was she who had taught her eldest child that a crown meant service, not superiority. Together, mother and daughter often disguised themselves as common folk, wandering the villages to lend aid where it was most needed. But perhaps the greatest change in Lilybelle's life came with the birth of her little sister. On the night the moon hung full and silver over the kingdom, Queen Eliana gave birth to a second daughter, Lumen Terra Senta. From the moment Lilybelle saw her, cradled in her mother's arms, her heart overflowed with love. She would sit by the cradle for hours, singing lullabies, while fairies danced about the baby's head. She swore to her parents that she would protect her sister always, with every breath she had. Yet fate, cruel as it was, had other designs. For Lilybelle was a princess, and her duty lay not only with her family, but with her people and her kingdom's place in the world. When her betrothal was announced to none other than Valerius Ardentis Sunwing, king of dragons, the joy of her sister's birth was shadowed by sorrow. On the morning of her departure, she lingered in the nursery, holding tiny Lumen in her arms one last time. "Grow strong, little star. Know that your sister loves you, no matter where the winds carry me. I will always be with you, even if you cannot see me." Queen Eliana stood at the doorway, her face calm, though her eyes betrayed sorrow. King Breck placed a steadying hand upon her eldest daughter's shoulder. "It is the way of royals, my Lily," he said softly. "Your sacrifice is for the greater good. But never doubt, your people will never forget you, nor will we." And so, though her heart was heavy, she lifted her chin with quiet resolve. She was no stranger to sacrifice, nor to the weight of duty. She carried herself with grace as she left her homeland, her wings catching the sunlight like spun glass, her eyes full of unspoken goodbyes. The fairies wept. The pixies sang songs of farewell. The dragonflies rose in great clouds, escorting her carriage, as though the kingdom itself could not bear to let her go. Thus, Lilybelle Isauria Senta, the gentlest soul of the 9 kingdoms, stepped into the path that would bind her life to the proudest of kings, never knowing that her kindness, scorned by queens and overlooked by courtiers, would one day become the only light strong enough to guide the world out of darkness. Chapter 3. The Dragon King and His Queens. In all the 9 kingdoms, no sovereign shone as brightly or burned with more pride than Valerius Ardentis Sunwing, king of dragons. When he walked the halls of his palace, courtiers lowered their gazes not out of fear, but from awe, for he bore the majesty of a god's heir, every inch of him a reminder of the power of dragons. In his beast form, he was a vision of terror and splendor, scales of molten gold gleaming brighter than any treasure mined from the earth, a tail long and sinuous, rippling with raw strength, horns so vast they seemed carved from heaven's own light, crowned with the infinite magic of the realm, and wings, vast, radiant, terrible, that no avian creature could rival. Yet his human form stirred even greater envy. He stood a towering 6 feet and 9 inches, the tallest of all beings in their mortal guises. His skin was fair, but kissed with glimmers of golden scales across his shoulders and chest. His eyes blazed like molten amber, as though fire itself peered through them. His body was forged through battle, muscles taut and sculpted, broad shoulders, and the ridges of an 8-pack that spoke of both discipline and dominance. His hair, golden as the sun, flowed long and silken, nearly reaching the tip of his draconic tail when he shed his human guise. He was beauty and power incarnate, and he knew it. His pride was as much his crown as the circlet of gold he wore upon his brow. And yet, in this gilded heart of the palace, where jewels and silks gleamed brighter than the stars, there lingered an unspoken truth. It was not power nor beauty alone that would decide the fate of the 9 kingdoms. For among these women, and within the proud Golden King himself, lurked seeds of jealousy, rivalry, and ruin. And only the one who bore no pride at all would carry the strength to change the world. Chapter 4. The Youngest Bride. The Dragon Palace was a citadel of fire and gold. Its towering spires reached toward the heavens, scales of enchanted stone glittering in the sun, as though the castle itself were a living dragon. Its halls rang with laughter, song, and the endless pride of his king and his court. Into this dazzling place stepped Lilybelle Isauria Senta, the last of the 9 queens, the daughter of dragonflies and fairies, a child of meadows and rivers, soft-spoken and gentle as a spring breeze. She was the youngest, the last to be wed to King Valerius. And though she carried herself with grace, the moment her slippered feet touched the marble floors of the Dragon Palace, she felt the weight of 8 pairs of eyes upon her, cold, appraising, already sharpened with envy. The queens had long since grown accustomed to rivalry. The marriage that had ended the endless wars of the 9 kingdoms had not ended the spirit of competition. Each woman had entered the palace believing herself the favored one, believing her beauty, her strength, or her pride would secure the king's eternal devotion. Instead, the harem of queens became a battlefield of whispered insults, veiled threats, and smiles sharp as knives. And Lilybelle, with her quiet heart and radiant kindness, became their common enemy. At first, it was small things. A gown torn by accident, a goblet of wine spilled across her lap, jewels are missing from her chamber. But as the days turned to weeks, their cruelty grew bolder. They mocked her height, taller than them all, and her beauty, calling her too strange, too delicate, too unlike a queen. They whispered that her wings were fragile glass that would shatter with a touch. But above all, they envied something none of them could command: the king's gaze. Valerius, proud as he was, had never lingered long upon any of his wives. To him, beauty was abundant, and pride was everywhere. But when Lilybelle entered his halls, something shifted. He laughed more freely in her presence, his voice softening when he spoke her name. He began to linger in her chambers long after protocol demanded, watching her pour honey into tea or hearing her hum old songs from her homeland. When he looked at her, the fire in his eyes no longer burned with arrogance, but glowed with warmth. The queens noticed, and they hated her for it. They united in their jealousy, their rivalries set aside for a single purpose: to make Lilybelle's life unbearable. When Valerius was away in council or at war, they descended upon her chambers like hawks. Their barbs were endless. You are no queen, just a child dressed in silks. Your kindness is a weakness. You will be devoured. Enjoy his favor while it lasts, dragonfly. A king cannot love a bug. Yet Lilybelle endured it all. She wept in silence, but never lashed back. She answered cruelty with gentleness, hatred with forgiveness. And slowly, so slow none but the king himself could see, her gentleness began to melt the ice around Valerius's heart. Where he once measured himself only by his pride, he now measured his worth in her smiles. Where he ruled with arrogance, he now began to listen, not to his generals or his courtiers, but to the soft words of his youngest bride. The palace began to whisper. Could it be that the proudest king of all had found his match in the humblest queen? The war outside the palace had ceased, bound by the fragile thread of marriage. But inside its golden walls, another war raged, silent, poisonous, and unending. The queens clawed at one another with envy, fought for supremacy, and bled the air with their rivalries. And in the center of it all stood Lilybelle, fragile yet unbroken, despised yet beloved, mocked yet quietly triumphant. For though the queens plotted her downfall, though they bound themselves in a sisterhood of spite, they could not touch what truly mattered. Her love was becoming the one power even pride could not withstand. And in King Valerius, that love was stirring something long thought impossible. A dragon's heart learning at last to be human. Chapter 5. The 9 Blessings of Cape of Jasmine. The dream came first, radiant and terrible. Lilybelle stood in a meadow of light, where dragonflies the size of mountains shimmered like prisms, wings scattering starlight across endless skies. There, the dragonfly god appeared, his wings vast and iridescent, his form a living tapestry of colors too beautiful for mortal eyes. Daughter of kindness, bearer of gentleness, vessel of hope, he spoke, his voice like the hum of 1,000 wings. The 9 kingdoms are drowned in the poison of pride, but through you a seed of change shall be planted. Drink from the 9 blossoms of Cape of Jasmine, and life shall quicken within you. From your womb shall come 9 children, 8 sons radiant with power, and 1 daughter whose spirit will rise beyond the heavens. She alone shall carry the divine mantle, and with her heart all kingdoms may unite. The god's eyes softened, though sorrow clouded their brilliance. But beware, child. What makes you luckiest of all mothers will also make you unluckiest of all women. Envy is a blade sharper than any steel, and it will be turned upon you. Guard your children, for only through them can peace bloom. When Lilybelle awoke, her heart was racing, and the fragrance of jasmine clung to the air. Guided by faith, she went to the palace gardens at dawn. There, 9 blossoms of Cape of Jasmine glowed faintly in the mist, their nectar glistening like dew kissed by moonlight. With trembling hands, she drank from each one, after the other, until all 9 cups of nectar were gone. That night, she dreamed again, not of gods, but of children. She saw 9 golden eggs nestled beside her, warm and alive, each humming with radiant power. The youngest glowed brighter than all the rest, silver light spilling across the heavens. A daughter, blessed above her brothers, destined to bear a crown no mortal had worn, the crown of divinity. When the days passed, her body proved the vision true. Lilybelle was with child. The news shook the palace like a thunderclap. For nearly a decade, the 8 queens had taken turns with King Valerius, each reigning a year at his side. Yet no matter how long they lingered in his bed, no child came forth. Their wombs, though royal, were barren, cursed by pride's unseen hand. Only Lilybelle, humble and selfless, conceived. Valerius was overcome with joy. At last he would have heirs, children born of love, not pride. He cared little that the others were childless. His heart belonged only to Lilybelle. With her he laughed more freely, spoke more gently, lived more humanly. The other queens saw it and despised her all the more. Their envy was a sickness. They saw her swelling belly as an insult, her glow as mockery, her forgiveness as a blade turned against their pride. They whispered among themselves, weaving their jealousy into a single, wicked thread. Lilybelle, ever gentle, bore their cruelty without complaint. She never told Valerius of the sharp words, the cruel pranks, the isolation. She believed her silence would keep the peace. But peace was never what the queens desired. They wanted her gone. And though Lilybelle's children were a blessing foretold, in the shadows, envy sharpened its claws. Chapter 6. The Downfall of the Dragon Kingdom. From the moment Lilybelle's belly began to swell, Valerius never left her side. The king of dragons, the mightiest of rulers, heir to the dragon god himself, now spent his days not on the battlefield or the council chamber, but in his wife's quiet rooms. He hovered like a guardian, tending to her every need with a gentleness that shocked the court. If she craved honey at dawn, he scoured the markets until the sweetest jars were delivered. If she longed for jasmine tea, he fetched it with his own hands. He counted her breaths when she slept, watched over her meals, and ensured her gowns were never too heavy, nor her pillows too thin. The servants whispered behind their sleeves, laughter soft but warm. Our mighty king has become the youngest queen's handmaid. When one frightened boy knelt for mercy after being overheard, Valerius only laughed, the sound ringing like fire-striking steel. If I truly am her handmaid, then I shall make her take up my duties in return. A fair trade, don't you think? The court chuckled nervously, but the king was proud of the jest. For 3 months, Lilybelle's parents and little sisters stayed within the palace walls. Valerius all but begged them to remain longer, though duty eventually called them home. Their departure left the queen lonely, but her husband's constant care softened the ache. Yet, beyond the palace, shadows stirred. Whispers reached the throne of unspeakable research in neighboring lands. Rats disappearing from villages, their corpses found mutilated along riverbanks. The creatures, long scorned for their ancestral ties to demonic bloodlines, were being slaughtered for experiments. Valerius dispatched his best spies, only to find their bodies returned days later, mutilated as warnings. Someone with great power wanted the truth buried. Unbeknownst to him, that truth already lay within his palace walls. The Fox Queen had discovered ancient scrolls, scripts that spoke of resurrecting the rat demons. With her 7 sisters, she had funded hidden research, slaughtering innocents in secret laboratories. Their pride had twisted to envy, their envy to cruelty, and now they stood at the edge of unleashing horrors unseen since the dawn of creation. On the eve of Lilybelle's due date, their work was finished. 9 artificial eggs, each seeded with the essence of demon rats, were smuggled into the palace. When the labor came, Lilybelle's cries echoed through the chamber like music and thunder. Her body fought, strained, and endured, until one after another, 9 golden eggs slipped from her, each pulsing with divine life. Exhausted, she collapsed into unconsciousness. The queens struck. With hurried hands and whispered spells, they swept the glowing eggs away, burying them deep beneath the garden's jasmine tree, sealing them with wards so their parents would hear neither cries nor heartbeat. In their place, they laid the 9 rat demon eggs, pale and lifeless to mortal eyes. When Valerius entered at last, his heart sank. The physician rushed to tend Lilybelle, but the king's gaze fell upon the eggs, dim, sickly yellow, stripped of the brilliance he had expected. Doubt gnawed at him, but the 8 queens insisted these were truly hers. Clutching Lilybelle in the eggs, he missed the smirks that flickered across their faces. 2 days later, the eggs cracked open. From within came not tender cries of dragon children, but shrieks that split the skies. One after another, monstrous forms burst forth, rat demons, reborn from ancient damnation, swelling until each was as vast as Mount Carrara, armored hides gleaming with steel-like fur, fireproof and immortal. The palace shook. Soldiers froze. The once mighty Dragon Kingdom drowned in fear. In her dreams, Lilybelle ran barefoot through a shadowed meadow, searching desperately for her children. She heard their cries, distant, muffled, but unmistakable. She reached for them, but the darkness always pulled them away. Waking with a start, weak and pale, she rose from her bed and staggered toward the gardens. Valerius tried to hold her back, pleading, "Stay, my love, we will tame them, find a way to bring them back." Her voice rang like a bell of truth, stronger than her frail body. "Those vile beasts are not my children. They are buried in the garden. Please, Vale, let me go to them." His blood froze. With shaking hands, he clawed at the earth beneath the jasmine tree, nails tearing and bleeding as he dug. And there they lay, 9 eggs, cold and dim, their life force extinguished by a day's neglect. Valerius collapsed, wailing, clutching the lifeless shells to his chest. "Your father was a coward, the lowest being of all. Forgive me, my children. Please come back. Take me with you. Please do not leave me." Beside him, Lilybelle pressed trembling hands over the eggs, pouring what little life force she had into them. Nothing stirred. No light returned. Her tears soaked the shells. "Look, Vale, our children are sleeping so peacefully. They will never suffer jealousy now. Sleep, my little ones. Sleep forever." His scream shattered the night. In one single terrible motion, he drew his dagger and drove it into his own chest. When Lilybelle saw him fall, saw his blood soak the soil beside their eggs, she kissed his face, whispered his name, and followed him into death. Thus perished the mightiest kingdom of all. The rat demons rampaged, devouring everything in their path, tearing stone from the earth and fire from the sky. The once glorious halls of the Dragon Palace burned and crumbled. In distant towers, the 8 queens raised their goblets, drinking to their triumph. Yet the taste of victory turned to ash upon their tongues. The hidden curse of pride, the curse they had borne since birth, struck at last. For 9 nights, they writhed in agony, bodies consumed by fire and shadow, their laughter turning to screams. On the 9th day, their voices fell silent, and not even the gods of the devildom could ease their torment. The Dragon Kingdom lay in ruins. Its king, its queen, its children, gone. And the world mourned. Chapter 7. The Gift of a Second Chance. Valerius's soul rose from the ruins of his body like smoke from dying embers. For a brief, breathless moment, he lingered above the battlefield, watching as Lilybelle's lifeless form curled protectively around their cold eggs. The sight hollowed him. Even in death, he could not weep enough to wash away the grief. As he drifted upward, the whispers of cruel laughter cut through the night. Below, the 8 queens toasted their hollow victory, sipping wine with smug satisfaction as the rat demons rampaged through what had once been his kingdom. It was then he saw the truth. The monstrous demons had not been wild beasts at all. They were controlled, captured and harnessed by the warriors who served the queen's secret lovers. They were weapons in a plot long spun. The queens had not only stolen his children, they had conspired to destroy the Dragon Kingdom from within, to shatter its might and claim its power for themselves. Their deceit was boundless, their mercy non-existent. Pride had poisoned them so deeply that even their own humanity had withered away. For 9 days, Valerius's soul lingered, forced to watch as the hidden curse of pride devoured them. Their beauty withered, their voices shrieked with torment, and their bodies twisted under suffering no god nor demon could ease. They perished screaming, one after another, but there was no triumph in their fall. It brought Valerius no peace. His soul was too hollow, too broken. He wanted not vengeance, not justice, only Lilybelle and their children. When the 9th scream faded into silence, light enveloped him. He felt himself carried upward, beyond the veil of clouds, beyond the reaches of stars, into the halls of eternity. There, seated upon a throne of radiant fire and scales, was the dragon god. Valerius fell to his knees at once. "Father," he wept, voice ragged, "my life is nothing without them. Take all that I am, all that I was meant to be, just give them back. My Lilybelle, my children, without them, I am a king of ashes." The dragon god's gaze, ancient and terrible, softened at his son's plea. For the first time in countless ages, he saw his proud heir stripped bare of arrogance. What stood before him was no longer the haughty Dragon King, but a man broken open by love. "Valerius," the god said, his voice like thunder, woven with sorrow, "you were chosen once to unite the 9 kingdoms. Yet your pride bound your steps, and pride brought your fall. But your heart, at last, has shed its chains. Few mortals or immortals are ever granted what I will give you now." The fire around the throne dimmed, becoming warm and golden. "You shall be given a second chance, a life reborn, a path rewritten. Guard it well, my son, for such a gift is rarer than the stars themselves. Through it, you may protect your Lilybelle, raise your 9 children, and perhaps lead the kingdoms into peace. But know this, pride will hunt you again. You must master it, or all shall be lost once more." Valerius's tears fell like rivers as he pressed his forehead to the ground. "I swear it upon heaven and earth. I will leave no stone unturned, no battle unfought. I will dedicate every breath, every heartbeat to the happiness of my wife and children. They are my world, my crown, my only pride. If you grant me this chance, I will not fail them again." The dragon god's vast wings unfurled, casting the heavens in golden light. His voice boomed like the dawn. "Then rise, Valerius, ardentest Sunwing. Rise not as a kingdom of pride, but as a father, a husband, a man reborn. The path of redemption lies before you. Walk it, and let love be your weapon." And as light consumed him, Valerius's heart swelled with hope he had thought lost forever. He opened his eyes and found himself once more in the world of the living. The day was young, the sky still bright. Time itself had rewound. The weight of memory lay heavy upon him, but his chest burned with new purpose. It was the morning after the dragon god's messenger had first come to him with the charge of uniting the 9 kingdoms. Once, he had chosen to marry 9 queens for power. This time, he knew better. This time, he would choose love. Chapter 8. A Kingdom Reborn. A Garden Prepared. Valerius awoke in his palace chambers. The weight of memory pressed against his chest like an iron brand. He knew what had been lost, what pride had destroyed, and this time he swore the past would not repeat itself. From the moment of his rebirth, he moved with purpose. Every shadow of corruption in his halls was hunted down. The mages who had once dabbled in forbidden rituals were stripped of their memories and power. Ancient scrolls that whispered of demon resurrection were seized and burned until not a single ember of that vile knowledge remained. The secret chambers of torture, the hidden laboratories, the cruel traditions buried under centuries of pride, he razed them all. Every library, temple, and school came under his scrutiny. No one was beyond the reach of his laws. Not ministers, not nobles, not even priests. The corrupt ministers of his former reign were dismissed, replaced with keen-minded men and women who carried both wisdom and integrity. He rebuilt the kingdom from its bones. Roads were smoothed, dams repaired, rivers redirected with careful precision. A new system of taxation was introduced, 1 year of tax exemption every 10 years, and rewards for loyal taxpayers. For the poor but gifted, scholarships were established, opening paths of knowledge long barred by arrogance and wealth. And, most radical of all, Valerius declared every race, whether dragon, fairy, mermaid, or fox, equal before the law. The kingdom of dragons, once infamous for its pride and cruelty, became a land of fairness. This declaration sent ripples of outrage through old houses, but Valerius did not waver. He tightened his laws until no one could challenge his will. For 6 relentless months, he waged war not against kingdoms, but against the rot within his own core. Ministers groaned under his demands, criminals trembled at his reforms, but slowly, the great dragon kingdom began to heal. Every night, when exhaustion crushed him, he would think of Lilybelle. His heart longed for her gentle smile, her kindness like sunlight in the gloom. Yet he restrained himself. He could not bring her into a broken palace, into a kingdom still riddled with scars. First, he would make a home worthy of her. 2 years passed in this way. By the time he reached his 22nd year, the age of marriage for dragons, his realm shone brighter than it ever had before. His reforms had borne fruit. The kingdom was safe, strong, and just. And, in those years, he prepared a gift of love, a garden unlike any other in heaven or earth. Within the palace grounds, he carved out a vast expanse where magic thrummed with life. He planted every flower Lilybelle adored, soft looms of Cape jasmine that perfumed the air with sweetness, beds of violets that shone like twilight, roses of every color that glowed faintly under moonlight. He ordered crystal fountains so clear they mirrored the stars, and built a serene lake where white and pink water lilies spread their petals like drifting dreams. He summoned the best beekeepers of the realm and brought in rare golden bees that produced honey sweeter than ambrosia. Their hives were nestled among the jasmine trees so that Lilybelle might sip nectar whenever her heart desired. But it was not only a garden of flowers, it was alive with enchantment. Fairies and pixies, hearing whispers of the Dragon King's devotion, flocked to it of their own accord. They strung crystal dewdrops between branches to glimmer like stars. They coaxed fireflies to dwell among the reeds so the garden glowed in soft golden light every night. Pixie children built tiny lanterns from hollow acorns, painting them in rainbow hues, and hung them like jewels on the trees. The fairies wove songs into the wind so that every breeze carried a faint lullaby. Even the earth seemed enchanted. Grass grew softer, moss more fragrant, and the lilies turned their faces toward the heart of the garden as if awaiting its queen. When it was complete, it became known among his people as the Queen's Haven, though none but Valerius knew whose queen it was meant for. On the day of his coming of age, Valerius set aside his crown, donned plain robes, and journeyed to the kingdom of dragonflies. There, he found Lilybelle. She was laughing with her mother, Queen Eliana, as she played with her newborn sister, little Princess Lumen. For a moment, Valerius could not breathe. The sight of Lilybelle's joy, her kindness so simple and untainted, struck him harder than any sword. His heart, mighty as a dragon's, trembled like a child's. Tears, unbidden and unstoppable, fell down his cheeks. Startled, Lilybelle rushed forward, pulling a handkerchief from her sleeve. "Are you hurt by any chance?" she asked, eyes wide with worry. Valerius bowed his head, voice breaking. "I was. Now I am all right." King Brexenta, her father, froze at the sight of the proudest of kings kneeling before him. "Please, do not kneel," Breck said, voice unsteady. "You are a king." But Valerius shook his head, lowering himself further to the ground. "No, my lord, I am but a humble dragon, begging for your most precious treasure. I promise before heaven and earth that I will never let her cry, never let harm touch her. She will be the only queen of my life, my wife, my Lilybelle." Moved beyond measure, Breck bent and helped him rise, embracing him like a son. "Then I give her into your care. I hope you will keep your word, my son." The word son struck Valerius's heart like a thunderbolt. His parents had died when he was but 7, leaving him to the cold embrace of duty. Hearing Breck call him son cracked something inside him. He wept on the king's shoulder, not as a monarch, but as a boy who had long hungered for a father's warmth. Watching them, Lilybelle's lips curved in mischief. She whispered to her mother, "Mama, the mighty Dragon King is a crybaby." Then she quickly clapped her hands over her mouth, horrified by her own boldness. For a breathless moment, silence hung in the air. Then all 4 of them burst into laughter. Even baby Lumen giggled in her mother's arms, as if she too understood the joy of that moment. The mighty Dragon King had come not with demands of pride, but with the gift of humility and love. And with that, the seeds of a brighter destiny were sown. Chapter 9. The Dawn of a New Age. For 2 years before he sought Lilybelle's hand, King Valerius traveled across the realms of the 8 kingdoms, not as a conqueror, not as the proud Dragon King of old, but as a man reborn. He came to each king in humility, proposing what none could have foreseen. "Let your daughters marry those whom their hearts love. Let them live not in pride's shadow, but in love's light." The proposal struck the courts like thunder. The 8 princesses, once bound to Valerius by duty and rivalry in their previous lives, were set free. Some were hesitant, unsure of his intent, but when they saw the Dragon King's new nature, gentler, patient, and humble, their pride too began to melt. Slowly but surely, they walked upon a new path, not the path of envy or ambition, but of love freely chosen. The dragon god himself rejoiced at this miraculous change. He pleaded with the other divine beasts to lift the curses of pride that had long shackled the 8 princesses. For centuries, pride had made their wombs barren, their birth rate crumbled, and the fear of losing the royalty was crushing them slowly. They lost their divine gift, and the slow birth rate was making them more anxious, which made them do so many irrational things. But the day after Valerius's proposal, in dreams, each of the 8 kings was visited by their own god. Each god spoke the same words. Accept Lilybelle as Empress and Valerius as Emperor. Follow their lead, and all that was lost shall rise again. After that divine revelation, the 8 kings, armored with newfound hope, accepted Valerius's proposal and let their princess marry freely. They each married their lovers who were either poor or worked in their palace. Then, freed from the chains of constant anxiety, the blessings returned. Within 2 moons of their marriages, each princess carried a child. News of their pregnancies spread like wildfire. For the first time in living memory, the 8 kings of the other realms felt their hardened hearts soften. Pride, the root of endless wars, began to crack under the weight of love, fairness, and hope. And as each kingdom's divine blessings, long stripped away, were restored, they knew in their hearts it was because of Valerius and Lilybelle. The crocodile kingdom regained its sacred armor of scales, impenetrable and gleaming. The fox kingdom welcomed back its royal 9 tails, a beast of wisdom and cunning. The basilisk kingdom saw their princes born with mighty horns once more. The mermaid kingdom heard again the songs of their divine sirens, voices that calmed storm and tide. The hippogriff kingdom spread its wings in joy as the gift of flight returned to their young. The griffin kingdom roared in triumph. Their divine roar was restored to their warriors. The phoenix kingdom, thought forever diminished, witnessed the rebirth of their line with the sacred gift of regeneration. The curses had lifted. The age of pride was waning. The wedding. Thus, when the time came for Valerius to wed Lilybelle, the world itself seemed to hold its breath. The ceremony was held in the Queen's Haven, the enchanted garden Valerius had built with his own hands. For 7 days and 7 nights, the palace grounds overflowed with celebration. Fairies strung garlands of glowing jasmine that lit up like starlight. Pixies wove silken veils for the bride, shimmering with dew and moonlight. Unicorns from distant valleys trotted in procession, their manes braided with lilies. The air was filled with song. Sirens sang from crystal pools. Phoenixes circled above, leaving trails of fire that burst into showers of roses. And griffins beat their wings, shaking the heavens with their cries. The kings of all 8 kingdoms arrived with their families, not as rivals but as honored guests. The 8 princesses came not as bitter foes, but as genuine well-wishers. They watched Lilybelle, radiant in a gown of white silk, embroidered with dragonfly wings, and they bowed in respect. On the 7th night, Valerius and Lilybelle were crowned emperor and empress, not only of dragons, but of a new age. The divine beasts blessed their union, and the god of creation himself whispered across the heavens, "Let this love endure beyond all malice." Chapter 10, The Eternal Honeymoon. The grand wedding had ended, yet for Valerius and Lilybelle, the true beginning of their lives had only just arrived. Their days together unfolded like a dream spun from silk and honey. Each morning, Valerius woke not to the clamor of horns or the summons of his ministers, but to the warmth of Lilybelle's embrace. Her lips brushed his cheek before his eyes even opened, her laughter tickling against his throat. More than once, he forgot the morning court entirely, tangled in sheets in her arms, content to lose himself in the scent of jasmine woven through her hair. At night, they lingered in the queen's haven, the enchanted garden he had built for her. Beneath the archways of moonlit lilies and the hum of pixies weaving light, they held each other close, whispering vows of eternal devotion. They promised, confessed, laughed, and wept, as though the garden itself were a temple to their love. More often than not, dawn found them still awake, their bodies and souls entwined, their hearts aching, not with sorrow, but with joy too vast to contain. The palace ministers, seasoned men who had seen kings rise and fall, could not help but chuckle among themselves whenever Valerius entered the court flushed and breathless. "The newlywed effect never wears off with our emperor," they would murmur. Valerius, usually so composed, flushed red as paper, his golden ears burning as he snapped at them to focus. Yet in his heart, he was grateful. These men were no longer distant courtiers, but loyal allies, friends he had never known in his first life. For he had freed them from the chains of a hidden slave market where the previous ministers had held them captive, working without pay. Valerius had abolished that cruel practice and stripped the nobles responsible of their titles. For this, his 9 ministers served him not only with loyalty, but with genuine affection. Still, he bore one secret too heavy to share. He had not told Lilybelle about his past life. He could not. How could he sully their radiant love with the dark shadow of his failures, his sins, his lost family? He wished only to give her joy, not sorrow. But Lilybelle, ever perceptive, often felt the weight in his heart. She could see it in the way he clung to her, as if afraid she might vanish again. She could feel it in the depth of his love. Too vast, too heavy, too knowing. One evening, as they lay beneath the starlit canopy of the garden, Lilybelle finally asked what her heart had long whispered. "My love, how is it that you know me so deeply, as if you had loved me for a lifetime already? What past do you keep hidden from me? Tell me. Tell me who you are." Valerius's heart seized. He had dreaded this question, yet he had prepared himself. He shook his head, his golden hair falling into his eyes. "No, Lily. My love, I want only happy memories for you. Do not ask me about things too sad, too terrifyingly sad to even remember." But Lilybelle would not yield. She pressed his hand to her chest, her eyes blazing with determination. "I want to love all of you, not just your smiles, but your sorrows, not just your kindness, but your regrets, your anger, your hatred, your grief. I want them all. They are part of you, and I will make them mine. I don't care how heavy they are. Tell me, husband. Tell me everything." Her words struck him like lightning. Never, in either life, had anyone said such a thing to him. His strength faltered, his pride shattered, and he wept openly, sobbing into her embrace. "Oh, Lily, oh, my sweet Lily, how can I burden you with those memories? I was vile, I was cruel, I hate myself for what I once was." Lilybelle held his face firmly between her hands, her eyes sharp and fierce. "Don't you dare say my Val was vile. Don't you dare hate him. He deserves love from all heaven and earth. All the love in the world would still be too little for the greatness of his heart. You are the sun and moon of my life. Without you, I am nothing. My whole existence would be meaningless. So tell me, my love, what aches your lonely heart?" Defeated by her fierce devotion, Valerius could no longer withhold the truth. He told her everything: his past life as a proud and ruthless king, his dictatorship over small nations, the sins he committed in blind ambition, the loveless years with the 8 queens, and his failure to protect her from their cruelty. He spoke of the fall of his kingdom, the attack of the rat demons, his death, and the hollow despair of the afterlife. Finally, he told her of the dragon god's mercy, granting him the rare gift of a second chance. Together, they wept until their bodies trembled, clinging to each other as though they might vanish if they let go. Lilybelle kissed his tears away, whispering again and again that she would never abandon him, that they would face all sorrow together. That night, their love deepened beyond flesh, beyond passion, beyond even vows. Their souls became one, forged in fire and tempered in tears. And when dawn broke, Valerius felt lighter than he ever had in both lives. For the first time, he was free, because Lilybelle had chosen to carry his burdens as her own. They loved each other until morning, not as emperor and empress, but simply as man and woman, bound in an eternal embrace.
Chapter 11. The Children of Promise. The years of longing, the vows whispered beneath moonlight, and the prayers offered in secret all converged upon a single destiny: the Children of Promise. From the very moment Lilybelle carried new life within her, the air of the palace shifted. The dreams of the young queen were vivid and divine. She saw herself surrounded by 9 radiant children, 8 golden princes whose wings shimmered like dawn, and 1 silver-haired daughter, glowing with the aura of the moon itself. A voice from the heavens whispered to her, "From your womb shall spring a goddess and 8 warrior kings. The girl shall unite the kingdoms. The brothers shall guard her throne with their lives. Thus shall peace rise from love, and pride bow before gentleness." Lilybelle carried this prophecy in her heart, never boasting, never revealing it with pride, for her humility was what drew divine blessings in the first place. Valerius, the devoted husband. Valerius, armed with the scars of his first life, swore he would not fail his family again. From dawn to dusk, he became not only emperor of dragons, but a handmaid to his beloved Lilybelle. He bathed her with reverence, combed and braided her crystalline hair until it shimmered like threads of rainbow glass, and soothed her aching back with massages strong enough to ease a dragon's bones, yet gentle enough not to bruise a flower. He tasted every dish before it reached her lips, fed her honey with his own hands, and sang lullabies when she struggled to sleep. When morning sickness struck, he held her hair and whispered comfort, never once complaining. When mood swings overcame her, he smiled and kissed her hands, her brow, even her feet. Once, Lilybelle scolded him fiercely for such behavior, but he only laughed and pressed his lips once more to her toes, murmuring, "Here lies my heaven. You look so beautiful, Lily. I am your servant of love." She flushed so red she could not speak, hiding her face in her hands, while pixies in the chamber giggled. His ministers often sighed with exasperation when their emperor arrived late again, but not one of them truly complained, for they knew this doting love was the shield that would protect their future. The birth of the 9. At last, the day came. Valerius's heart quivered with fear, old wounds from his past whispering of loss. But Lilybelle, her eyes steady as the moon, squeezed his hand and smiled. "This time, it will be all right. Do not fear, my love." And so it was. After hours of strain and sweat, Lilybelle brought forth 8 shining golden eggs, each glowing with warmth, followed by 1 radiant silver egg, whose light filled the chamber with holy brilliance. Valerius wept openly, kissing each egg again and again, whispering his thanks to the heavens. 7 days later, the shells cracked. The palace rang with cries not of sorrow, but of life, of joy. 8 golden princes hatched, their tiny horns sparkling, and their wings trembling with eagerness. And then, last, came the Silver Princess, Luna Cynthia Sunwing, her scales glowing like starlight on water. Valerius fell to his knees, awestruck. A silver dragon! A gift rarer than the heavens themselves. The children's natures. The 9 grew swiftly, each blessed with gentleness like their parents. Aiden Azar Sunwing, strong yet tender-hearted, often shielding his siblings with his wings. Ember Isol's Sunwing, fiery in spirit, but quick to laughter, a spark of warmth in every room. Kieran Knucker's Sunwing, clever and inventive, often lost in scrolls and gadgets of his own design. Shenron Cyrax's Sunwing, serene and philosophical, with a voice that soothed storms. Valerian Egon's Sunwing, bold and ambitious, yet always fair in judgment. Zephyra Draco's Sunwing, sharp-minded and cunning, but endlessly protective of his younger siblings. Elliot Daragona's Sunwing, playful and clumsy, whose mistakes often ended in laughter. Ragal Thorn's Sunwing, quiet and observant, his eyes missing nothing. And finally, Luna Cynthia Sunwing, the silver jewel, beloved by all. From the moment she spoke her first words, it was clear Luna possessed wisdom beyond her years. She grasped politics with an ease that startled even her father. More than once, Valerius sat silent and amazed as his little daughter offered counsel in the court, her insight as sharp as a seasoned minister. "She is extraordinary," he whispered to Lilybelle, and Lily, with tears in her eyes, only nodded. The test of heirship. But Valerius and Lilybelle, ever fair, declared that no crown should be given without trial. To choose the rightful heir, they designed a sacred 7-day examination. The princes, devoted to Luna, protested at once. "Our little moonlight is the rightful empress from the beginning," they cried. But Luna, proud and unyielding, crossed her small arms and challenged them. "Are my brave brothers afraid of me? If I am truly worthy, then let me prove it. If you are worthy, then beat me fairly." Unable to resist her fiery fairness, they agreed. For 7 days, the 9 children lived in isolation, provided only food and necessities, competing in trials of wisdom, strength, compassion, leadership, and sacrifice. Each brother gave his all, never once holding back. Yet, at the end, the crown of victory fell upon Luna Cynthia Sunwing. Her brothers bowed their heads not in defeat, but in pride. They had always known the truth. They were their moon, their guiding light. And now, the kingdom itself would know it too. The prophecy was fulfilled. 8 golden warrior kings and 1 silver empress to be, who would unite all kingdoms under one banner of peace.
Chapter 12. The Coronation of the Silver Empress. The palace of dragons, draped in silks of silver and gold, shimmered like a star fallen from the heavens. Bells rang across the 9 kingdoms, echoing from mountain to sea, calling every ally, noble, and commoner to witness the dawn of a new age. It was the day of Luna Cynthia Sunwing's coronation. Valerius stood proudly in ceremonial armor, his golden scales gleaming in the light of dawn. Beside him, Lilybelle shone like a goddess in flowing robes woven with threads of crystal, her gentle smile reflecting pride deeper than oceans. Behind them stood the 8 golden princes, each strong, noble, and resolute, but all willingly bending their wings to their sister's crown. The visit to Dragonfly Kingdom. In the weeks before the ceremony, the imperial family visited the kingdom of dragonflies. For Valerius and Lilybelle, it was not only diplomacy, but a return home. Pixies filled the air with song. Dragonflies glittered like stained glass in flight, and the fairies prepared feasts that could dazzle the heavens. There, Princess Luna met Princess Lumine Terracenta, her mother's younger sister, her aunt by blood, but close enough in age to be more like a sister. Lumine was already married to her dragonfly prince and living happily, but her heart opened instantly to her silver-haired niece. Though aunt and niece, Luna and Lumine became inseparable friends, their laughter echoing through the gardens, their whispered secrets woven into the roots of the flowers. The bond between them was a symbol of what the future would hold. Kinship, not rivalry. Unity, not pride. The blessings of creation. When Luna knelt upon the sacred dais of coronation, the sky itself parted. A divine radiance spilled across the 9 kingdoms. The god of creation, who had once mourned over bloodshed, now smiled on harmony. Her voice rang across the lands, a voice that touched every heart. I am well pleased. From sorrow you have raised joy. From pride you have birthed humility. From division you have woven unity. Let these children be my gifts to the world. One by one, the children of promise received blessings. Aiden received the shield of dawn, the strength to protect. Ember received the flame of joy, a heart that could heal despair. Kieran was granted the light of knowledge, wisdom beyond mortal years. Shenron was blessed with the breath of harmony, a voice that quelled conflict. Valerian was given the sword of justice, sharp against tyranny. Zephyra received the sight beyond, insight into truth and deceit. Elliot was gifted the spirit of laughter, a soul that scattered darkness. Rhaegal was given the eye of memory, to never forget history's lessons. And Luna, the silver jewel, received the crown of creation itself, the gift of unity, the power to gather all peoples beneath one banner of peace. And were the other kingdoms forgotten either? Each prince and princess of the 8 allied realms received blessings of their own. Powers once stripped by the curse of pride returned anew. The crocodiles regained their divine armor. The foxes, their sacred 9-tails. The basilisks, their mighty horns. The mermaids, their siren song. The hippogriffs, their wings. The griffins, their roar. And the phoenix, their true power of rebirth. Malice dissolved like mist before sunlight. And for the first time in ages, the 9 kingdoms stood together in joy. The Silver Dawn. As Luna Cynthia Sunwing stood before the gathered kings, queens, and countless citizens, the heavens themselves seemed to hold their breath. Her silver hair shimmered like moonlight, her golden crown of dragon-forged artistry resting lightly on her brow. But just as the heralds declared her the rightful heir, the skies opened and a radiant figure descended, the god of creation, veiled in starlight. With a voice that echoed like eternity, the god spoke. The age of pride is ended. From this day forward, peace and unity shall bind the 9 kingdoms as one. To you, Luna Cynthia Sunwing, I bestow the crown of creation, not as a jewel of conquest, but as a living promise. It will shine only when hearts are pure, and it will darken when shadows return. Bear it well, for though peace reigns today, the trials of tomorrow shall seek to test even the light of heaven. The god lifted a circlet wrought from moonlight and sunfire. It was not adorned with gems, for it needed none. The glow of its creation burned brighter than any stone. As it descended upon Luna's brow, the world seemed to still. The air rang with harmony, rivers shimmered with divine light, and even the oldest trees bent their branches in reverence. Valerius and Lilybelle, standing at their daughter's side, bowed their heads with tears of joy. The people of the Nine Kingdoms fell to their knees as one, pledging fealty not only to their Empress, but to the future she embodied. Thus, the crown of creation became more than a coronation gift. It was a covenant between heaven and earth, a reminder that unity must be guarded, and that even in an age of light, shadows will one day rise again. And at the heart of it all stood Empress Luna, moonlit daughter, beloved sister, cherished child, her gentle resolve carrying the hope of all creation. Love and unity. In the years that followed, Valerius's 8 golden sons each wed princesses from the allied realms, binding the realms with ties of love rather than war. And Luna, beloved by all, wed her first and only love, Duke Ryu Blaze Arad, of the Arad family. Once her sparring partner, sometimes her rival, but always her equal. Ryu was kind, clever, and noble of heart. Their union was celebrated not just by dragons, but by every creature beneath heaven's gaze. That day, the 9 kingdoms sang not of pride, not of conquest, but of love, harmony, and the promise of a brighter dawn. And so began the age of the Silver Empress. Queen Luna Cynthia Sunwing ruled with fairness and compassion, her brothers as her loyal guardians, her people as her cherished family. Under her reign, the seas and the skies, the fires and the forests, all bet not to fear, but to love. The God of creation looked upon her children and smiled. The tale that began with pride and war ended with love and peace, a tale never to be forgotten. And so the tales of the 9 kingdoms were written into eternity.
Epilogue: The crown that binds all. The 9 kingdoms entered a golden age. Trade flourished between lands once divided by war, and songs of peace echoed in every marketplace. The children of Valerius and Lilybelle grew into benevolent rulers, each guiding their realms with fairness and strength. The once cursed kingdoms, freed from pride, thrived in harmony. In the heart of it all stood Empress Luna Cynthia Sunwing, radiant beneath the crown that binds all. Her silver hair glimmered like dawn, and her wisdom far outshone her years. Under her reign, bridges were built where walls once stood, and enemies became allies. The people hailed her as the Moonlight Empress, the living bond between heaven and earth. Yet the God of creation's words lingered like a whisper in the wind. The crown shone with divine brilliance, but in its depths lay the shadow of trials yet to come. For even in an age of light, darkness gathers quietly, awaiting its moment to test the strength of peace. And so, the saga of Valerius and Lilybelle gave way to the dawning tale of their daughter, Empress Luna, whose reign beneath the crown that binds all would shape not only the 9 kingdoms, but the destiny of all creation.